You know that feeling, right? You finish a coding tutorial, you think, okay, I got this. And then you open a new file and just stare at a blank screen, completely lost. It's such a common problem. Well, today we're going to break down an awesome interactive workshop that really demystifies the web framework Next.js. We're going to see how it turns all that theory into a hands-on journey you can actually, use.
So let's kick things off with a really powerful idea from the workshop's instructor, Hira Khan. This one quote, it just explains so much about why learning to code can feel like such a struggle. And honestly, it's the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so here's the first big idea, the practice problem. The thing is, the real challenge isn't just getting the theory, right? It's that massive gap between watching someone else code and actually writing it yourself. It's one thing to know the path, but it's a completely different thing to walk it. So let's dig into how this workshop tackles that exact problem.
All right, so before we jump headfirst into Next.js, we got to take a quick step back. We need to talk about a concept that it's all built on, open source. And trust me, getting your head around this is absolutely key to understanding, well, pretty much all the tools modern developers use every single day.
So what does open source actually mean? It sounds kind of technical, maybe a little intimidating, but the instructor used this fantastic analogy that just makes it all click. It really just boils down to the difference between something that's a secret and something that's meant to be shared.
And this comparison just nails it. Think about it like this. Proprietary software, that's the closed source stuff, is like Coca-Cola's secret recipe. It's locked in a vault, you can't see how it's made, and you definitely can't change it. But open source, that's the complete opposite. It's like finding a recipe online. The whole world can see it, use it, tweak it, and share their own version. It's a community cookbook, not a secret formula.
And this open, collaborative approach isn't some niche idea. It's basically the engine running the modern internet. We're talking about things like Linux, which powers most of the cloud, JavaScript, the language of the web itself, and, you guessed it, the very framework we're here to talk about today, Next.js, is also open source.
So, okay, that brings us to the big question. With all the tools out there, why should you care about Next.js? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It's all about the real, often frustrating problems that it just solves for developers right out of the box.
The workshop really broke it down into these 5 core features, or, as I like to call them, Next.js's 5 superpowers. Each one of these is designed to solve a specific headache and make building modern websites way, way easier. For today, we're going to zero in on 3 of the biggest ones: routing, optimization, and rendering.
All right, first up, routing. Don't let the name scare you. At its core, routing is just about giving every single page on your website a unique address, a URL. You know, like how your house has an address so people can find it. Next.js has this incredibly simple and intuitive way of setting this up that we'll see in a bit. Okay, second superpower, optimization. And this one is huge. I mean, we've all been there, right? You click a link and you just sit there waiting, and eventually you just give up and leave. Well, a lot of the time, the biggest reason a site is so slow is one thing: unoptimized images. And I'm not kidding. Get this, on an average web page, images make up a whopping 44% of the total size. That is almost half of all the data your phone or computer has to download just to show you the page. It's crazy.
Yeah, this chart really drives the point home, doesn't it? Just look at that massive slice for images. Now here's where Next.js comes in and saves the day. It has built-in features that automatically optimize not just your images, but also other big things like fonts and scripts. And the best part? It does it all for you, making your site way faster without you having to do a ton of extra work. Okay, our next superpower is rendering. This is all about how your website's content actually gets prepared and displayed to the person visiting. The cool thing about Next.js is that it gives you choices. You can go with static rendering, where the page is built ahead of time. This is perfect for things like a blog post or a landing page. It's super fast. But if you have content that's always changing, like a live news feed, you can use dynamic rendering, which creates the page on the fly. It's all about having the flexibility to choose the right tool for the job.
Okay, so we've got the theory down, which is great. But remember what we said right at the beginning? Practice is everything. So, to solve that problem, the workshop introduced this really clever method for turning what you know into something you can actually do.
It's a pair programming method called Navigator and Driver, and it's brilliant. Here's the deal. You have 2 roles. The Navigator knows what needs to be built and gives step-by-step verbal instructions, but they can't touch the keyboard. The Driver is the only one who can type, but they can only type what the Navigator tells them to. This setup sounds simple, but it forces you to really think, communicate clearly, and it just cements the concepts in your brain like nothing else.
All right, enough talk. Let's see how this all looks in actual code. We're going to walk through a really simple but powerful example from the workshop, creating one single page that can dynamically show information for any product you want.
Okay, so check this out. Remember that file-based routing we mentioned earlier? This is where it gets so cool. To create a dynamic page that can handle any product, you literally just create a folder, but you put the name in square brackets. That's it! Those brackets are like a special signal to Next.js that says, hey, this part of the URL is a variable. It's going to change.
Then, inside your code, Next.js automatically gives you this thing called params. And with just one simple line of code, you can pull that variable, in this case, name, right out of the URL. It's really that easy. No complex setup, it just works.
And here's what that looks like in practice. If someone goes to the URL /products/cool-laptop, that little piece of code we just saw grabs the text cool laptop and uses it to create the page title. You get this beautiful, seamless connection between the URL, the code, and what the user sees on their screen.
And that brings us full circle, right back to the biggest, most important takeaway from this whole thing. The one piece of advice that really separates just watching tutorials from actually learning how to build.
The instructor's final message really hits home, and it's something we started with. Never, ever just copy and paste code. It feels like you're making progress, but you're not really learning. The real learning happens when you type it out with your own hands, when you make a typo, when you have to figure out why it's broken. That messy, sometimes frustrating, but ultimately rewarding process is where you actually understand what's going on. So, as we wrap this up, the real question isn't just about what you learned here today, it's about what you're going to do with it. You've got the concepts, the tools are free and waiting for you. The only thing left to do is practice. So the real question is, what are you going to build first?